this competition. They've been getting quite the work order. You've seen almost exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new Monza Ceramic here been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order. You've seen almost exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new Monza Ceramic here been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order. seen almost exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor ceramic hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order. You've seen almost exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor ceramic hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order. You've seen almost exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor ceramic hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order.
And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to round 2 of our Caribbean Touring Car Championship here at Monza in Italy. For our Italy tour, we are here ready and ripe for the action. We just saw the closing stages of practice having a little bit of drizzle. Driver saying that was more than a drizzle, but on the servo it said this is the live weather, so we are watching as it goes on. We are riding along board. We have roughly about 12.5 minutes until the conclusion of qualifying. We are now in our first ever qualifying session. We did have a relatively new update to the CSP this week or last week, my apologies. So definitely looking forward to what that entails with the practice session. Now drivers are getting a feeling a little bit closer to even iRacing based on what I'm hearing, where you have to basically be braking or finding the rougher edges of the track. You can't just brake anywhere. You have to figure out where it is, where it's suggested, where is a ideal location for you to brake. So as we see now, it has dried out. We did have a brief slowdown to the track there not too long ago, but as we speak, we're riding along board Mr. Michelle Wallace, a driver who we typically or used to see on the servos back in the day. Happy to see him back in action as we go on. So far, we will ride along board with our fastest driver on track at the moment, Mr. Luis Arenas, who is already looking like he's finding some form of lap traffic there with the Renault right in front of him. That's looking like a race heading down now into Ascari, but the Renault concedes and gives up that position for Mr. Arenas to continue on his way. Daniel Velez, though, as well, is looking very quick and rapid to see if he can take that provisional pole away from the Colombian. Typically, we do have a standing start, but this evening, especially with the new entry of the BMW M2, we will be having a rolling start to try and even out the starts as the Colombian of Mr. Arenas comes around Parabolico to head down the start finish straight and set his first lap, and he immediately goes on to pole with a 2 minute. The next fastest driver is Mr. Rohir Robinson with a purple sector 2, looking very rapid. Wasn't the quickest in sector 1, but there he goes, 2 minutes point 68 610. John Singleton as well in a 2 minute 6, and we are riding along board to see where the times. We do know pole time was looking about a 157. My apologies, 158, 159. Fastest time so far was set by Mr. Kimani Eastman earlier in the practice session before the rain with a 1 minute 58.36, which actually was taken over by Mr. Rohir Robinson, who we are riding along board with right here. He's not looking like he's quick enough to take away that purple sector 1 away from Mr. Arenas, but Luis Arenas is on a blazing lap so far, 6/10 up on the fastest sector 1 so far. I'm assuming we should see that time going down more and more as the session progresses, but that being said, he is definitely enjoying himself here today with the fastest sector 1 and looking to see if he can go another sector clear of the field, but 3/10 down on his best lap, so that's not entirely what he wants to see, but nonetheless I'm sure we'll be having his look of the field, but he clearly has a really good sector 1. Rohir Robinson has a really good sector 2, so he's looking like he will try and take away that position away. 3/10 up, 7/10 up in sector 2 as he rides along now straight through the final corner by Parabolico, and Luis Arenas does put the track to And ladies and gentlemen, we do apologize as we're having a little bit of server issue there, where some persons were seeing rain and some persons were seeing wet, or it was dry for some and some were wet. So we did have to do a quick server restart there. So we're sorry if that may have thrown you guys a little bit of confusion, but we just had to manage that as quickly as possible. But that being said, we are back with the qualifying session. We know that this is simulation racing. We are not trying to play God, but you know, with everything it does come its own complications. But that being said, the server has been reset. Drivers are now back on track and getting their laps on the way, and we have about 11 minutes back in the server. Hopefully I can catch back up and keep up with everything that's been happening since the reset has come. But as we are speaking, Ruben Espinosa is the driver. We are on board now with a purple sector 1 so far. That is not necessarily the quickest sector 1 that we will be seeing, but nonetheless we watch it as the qualifying session continues. But that being said, does look very quick in sector 1. Should be on provisional pole, as he does a very good sector 2 as well. This is looking like it's going to be about 2 minutes. But as we speak of the devil, Jaden Harrison and Davil Park take sector 1 and 2 right away from Mr. Espinosa. So we will be looking forward to his next few laps to come. Rohir Robinson now finishing his out lap as well, so we'll ride along board with him next. We'll ride along with Jaden as he is on his fast lap as we speak. But there goes Nicholas Donald with a 2 minutes point 2, and that is provisional pole, quickly snatched away from Mr. Ruben Espinosa. Here is Mikhail Charles coming down now, heading into Parabolica, and we'll be making the final turn now into the start finish straight, and he's looking relatively rapid here. He did have the purple sector 2, but quickly taken away from Mr. Jaden Harrison there in sector 2. But Rohir Robinson again taking sector 1 away from Jaden, so this is going to be a battle all the way to the finish line. Mikhail Charles now on provisional pole with a 2 minutes point 104, 159 set now by Roger Keller, and he, the Swiss driver, takes that position. Jaden Harrison on a provisional pole now with a 158.526. Here is Rohir Robinson now as he heads down now to, is that a Scary, I believe, and this is a long straightaway before that double chicane, and we'll ride along board with him as he is pressing out. But guess what, Daniel Velez in that BMW has already taken away sector 1 clean from Mr. Rohir Robinson. Raven Plummer as well, who is coming or heading down now into Parabolica, will be the next to cross the line, and we'll just ride along board with her as she comes around. Try to keep as much hog the outside section of that corner. Heads down now. That BMW should be a rocket heading down this start finish stretch, and there she goes now on P2 with a 158.964. Rohir Robinson now, will he have the pace? No, it seems as if he had maybe invalidated that lap. He did do a 158.788, but that wasn't good enough for him. But guess what, the P2 sitter last week in Mr. Daniel Velez is now very much so on position to take and snatch that pole position away from Jaden Harrison. 158.5 is the time to beat. Kimani Eastman, who did do a 158.3 in practice, is on the server or just rejoined the server, and we'll be looking forward to seeing what he can do. But Daniel Velez now sitting comfortable in, no, not that comfortable in P2, and is a 10th clear of Raven Plummer. Rohir Robinson again as well. Purple sector 1 looking very clean so far. We'll ride along board with him. His last lap would have put him into P2, but we'll see where he made put a foot wrong. My apologies. He did a 42.4 P35 in sector 1. We'll ride along board with him in that Hyundai Elantra and see where he can place that car. Will he have enough to take or dethrone his countryman Mr. Jaden Harrison, or put a little bit of separation? But right now we have 5 countries in the top 5: Jamaica, Colombia, Trinidad, United States of America and Switzerland. Will Rohey Robinson be the one to just throw a little bit of extra drama into the mix as he comes through Ascari? And that looks like he may have invalidated his lap there, as the grass itself is taking a little bit too deep as he comes up onto a little bit of traffic. I saw a little bit of flashing, so that does mean, or that should mean, that he is not invalidating his current lap. Comes around by Parabolica, hug, stay on that exit on the ideal line and heads down the start finish stretch. Where will this put him? And that is a 158.116. So that is now provisional pole, and he is now 4/10 clear of P2, almost 8/10 clear of P3. So we know that these drivers will be pushing. John Singleton as well adds another country into the top 5, top 6, my apologies, with an Australian now. It's sitting very comfortable, or again, not very comfortable, as he's only a few hundredths up on the car behind and the 2 cars behind. And I'm sure those drivers will be looking to improve sooner than later. But as it stands, Rohey Robinson almost a second clear of P3, so he is comfortable and will be fighting it out for that pole position with Jaden Harrison. The 2 are basically matching sector 1s, as Jaden Harrison now sets a 42.492 and Rohey Robinson with a 42.417. Who will take sector 2 away will be the determining factor. There is Jaden Harrison watching the rear end of Mr. Rohey Robinson in front of him, but Rohey looks like he's getting the better run in sector 2 based on what the times are showing us, and we should see the sector times coming in sooner than later, as these drivers are matching tooth and nail. 37.8 was Rohey Robinson in sector 2, 38.123, so 3/10 slower is Jaden Harrison, but looking like he might be getting a better sector 3. Did he get a better run coming out of Ascari? Not looking too in his favor, but nonetheless we'll continue to ride along board. Rohey Robinson now takes that final corner, which I'm guessing hoping for a little bit of draft there in the final few sections, but nothing to be had. And there he comes to cross along the line. 157.395 is provisional pole with 4.5 minutes. Jaden Harrison with a 157.812, using a little bit of that draft there to see if he can even pull himself a little bit further away. So clearly has enough fuel for at least one more lap and is pushing to see where he can gain that advantage. Rohey Robinson should be on his in lap now, back into the pits, but that time should put him clear into the at least top 2 of the field. Daniel Velez now 158.909, not improving on his time, and Mikhail Charles now was promoted up into P3, so we'll definitely be riding along board with him to see what he can do. Raven Plummer, though, we have not counted her out, as she now has the fastest sector 1 by a full almost 0.2 of a second. So clearly she's finding pace in that BMW. We were wondering if it might be balanced based on what I was hearing from some people, and there she goes very wide and maybe using a little bit too much of that curb, and will be, I'm sure, losing a few tenths there, even a few hundredths at least, hopefully not too much, as she rides along board now into the final, well, not the final, but right by Ascari. Uses those sausage bumps just like we use in the GT3s, and there it goes. 7/10 is the loss, just due to that last little blemish of a lap. So unfortunate there for her, but she will be definitely trying to set another fast lap or even improve slightly on their rest of this qualifying session. 2 minutes and 45 seconds to go. who will be the victor, and we will ride along board. She's coming around the final stretch now. 155, 156, 57, 58, and she is promoted into the top 4 and is now sitting best of the rest. Please be reminded as well, ladies and gentlemen, that Rohir Robinson and Jaden Harrison are 2 that do have a bit of ballast here, so they shouldn't be that quick. So that's just a testament to their talent. With the last 10 seconds left in the servo, we are noticing who is improving. Davil Park now, who for the first time is racing in our servos with a steering wheel, is pushing, and looking like he's at least improving on his lap. His original time is a 2 minutes, but now did improve, but not enough to be promoted into the next few positions. Raven again with a purple sector 1, and again right by that corner, looks very twitchy and definitely maybe losing out a little bit in that stage. And ladies and gentlemen, that does bring our qualifying session to a conclusion. Daniel Velez is the only driver left out to set an indicative time. He was a 10th up in sector 1. Can he pull through to take that for at least top 5 position? We have 2 Jamaicans, a Trinidadian, American, and a Swiss driver, and clearly the commentary curse is in play here to take him out of contention. He finishes off in P6. Ruben Espinosa now to make his way back to the pits, and that will be his qualifying session done. Rohir Robinson in P1, ladies and gentlemen, has had a few bad run-ins, but clearly two tracks that he really enjoys. Monza and Brands Hatch sits in P1, Jaden Harrison in P2, Mikhail Charles in P3, Raven Plummer in P4, Roger Keller in P5, Daniel Velez in P6, Kimani Eastman, did not see much of him today, does now sit in P7 with a 158.874, John Singleton in P8, Kurt Moss did not get the best lap out today, sits in P9. Ruben Espinosa, the last points position for this evening, sits in P10. Rodrigo Sinowild in P11 of AC Karting. Ricardo Reyes in P12. Kimani Eastman just rejoining the server. We'll join back to him quickly to showcase his livery. Right back in is Deville Park in P13, Luis Arenas of Colombia in P14. He had a brilliant race last week before it was taken out by the likes of Mikhail Charles, so I'm sure he wants to make back a name for himself this evening. Looked good in the qualifying session and the practice session, let me say, earlier, so we'll hope to see him catch back up to the pack sooner than later. Nicholas Donald in P15, Gary Otero in P16, Michelle Wallace looking like he didn't get the best qualifying session either, sits in P17, and Milton Zuniga in that Mitsubishi Lancer takes P18. We have another full session, ladies and gentlemen, and I am absolutely excited for what is to come. Rohir Robinson, as we said earlier, will be sitting very much so in the midst of the likes of Jaden Harrison, who the two will, I'm sure, be trying to conspire against the two BMW M2s that will be definitely be fighting their way in the next few stages. Noticing Oswin Wilson in the chat, and awesome, looking forward to seeing you as always, bro. Silver class driver Mr. Oswin Wilson, somebody who is not to be reckoned with, but nonetheless cannot wait to see him back on track, and I'm sure adding the Guyanese flag into the top 5 mix will be soon to be seen. TC8 Racing Team, salute and happy to see you in our chat. Very much so happy to have you, and looking forward to even racing with you in the very near future. But nonetheless, I'm getting a few messages that Kimani Eastman is having a few issues with his computer, which is why we keep seeing him jumping in and out. Jaden Harrison as well, I did notice, had a few issues, so we'll just wait and hopefully they will be back in action. We have about 2 minutes until race start. It should also be noted that typically we have a standing start, but this evening we will have a rolling start to try and even out the field with the launches of those BMWs, because the launch obviously of a rear-wheel drive car tends to be a little bit more dramatic than the likes of a front-wheel drive car. But nonetheless, we'll ride along board as you see the beautiful safety car in the rear end. But nonetheless, unfortunately, we will not be seeing that safety car being driven today, but we will be riding along board with the likes of, well, the Lido will be leading the pack this evening to get the race underway. Ladies and gentlemen, we will start racing in only a moment's time.
See almost exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor Ceramic Hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order. seen almost exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we do apologize again. Some drivers are seeing rain on their stream, and just in the spirit of fairness, we just decided to restart the server quickly just to make sure that everybody is on the way. So we do have a little bit of breaks here. At this point, we do implore you, if you have the chance, run and use the restroom quickly, get something to eat if you can. The racing should begin in only a moment's time. We just want to make sure that everybody has a fair run here this evening so we can enjoy ourselves and at the same time still be able to enjoy the racing that is to come. But that being said, yeah, we are about to go racing. Please just sit back with us for the moment's time as we get the drivers on the way for the next few moments. ladies and gentlemen, we are back. And we are now on the official rolling start or safety car start, let's say, for this evening. And we'll definitely be looking forward to what is to come in the next few moments. Rohir Robinson sits on pole position in P1, setting a 157.395, almost a second clear of P3. Jaden Harrison is the next competitor to him. These two do have a ballast that they will be, the success ballast. So the success ballast is between himself, Rohir Robinson, John Singleton, and, if I remember correctly, Raven Plomo and Mikhail Charles. So the five are the ones with a success ballast. Jaden Harrison now sitting in P2, Mikhail Charles in P3. The success ballast really just to bring the field closer and closer together. Raven Plomo in P4, Roger Keller, the Swiss driver in that Toyota Corolla, looking very rapid in P5. Daniel Velez of Nova Racing in P6. Kimani Eastman had some computer problems in qualifying. He was on the pole position in practice, or top 3 podium position in practice, but unfortunately did not get the best qualifying session in and on the way. We do have our resident Australian, Mr. John Singleton of AC Karting, a friend of ours that we'll be racing with very soon in the in the karting championship, global karting championship that we are planning out with them. Kurt Must, the Jamaican, sitting in P9, now ready to go racing. Typically somebody in the top split, but had some issues there with the setup, loading the wrong setup due to the rain and the inclement weather. Ruben Espinosa does take the final points position in P10. Rodrigo Senowile in P11. Ricardo Reyes in P12. DeVille Park in his debut on his steering wheel and not his controller in P13. Luis Arenas in P14. Gary Otero of Colombia in P15. We just saw Nicholas Donald, not sure, I'm not seeing him at the moment. Oh, there he is back. Nicholas Donald in P16. Mission Wallace in P17. And Milton Zuniga in P18. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a full-on battle on the way. And Rohir Robinson, as he comes out of Ascari, drivers should be lining up in double lane file sooner than later and getting and preparing themselves for the next few moments to come. Ladies and gentlemen, put your money up. I am very much so excited as the drivers are now on the double line file. And ladies and gentlemen, the fight is already on. And there is Mikhail Charles and Jaden Harrison and Rohir Robinson all on that rundown into turn 1. And that is Mikhail Charles putting his foot bare on and already goes careening into the dirt patch on the right hand side. Jaden Harrison being the biggest winner out of all of them there. Mikhail Charles, I'm hoping, did not enter illegally. Raven Plummer did get away as well. Luis Arenas, and it seems like a relatively clean getaway for Monza turn 1, and this is the expertise of driving as Ricardo Reyes does look and take a look coming down now into turn 4 on Rohir Robinson. Sorry, my apologies. Kimani Eastman puts a foot wrong there for the braking and does not get that position, but does lose and regain that back to take his position back from the few drivers there ahead. And who who is that we see careening in the rear end? Could not tell you, but I'm sure you'll get that sooner than later. Daniel Velez in P7. Kurt Moss is one of the biggest winners now, promoted to P5. Has Mr. John Singleton right there on the rear, but Daniel Velez now trying to make his way up and see if he can maybe put a little bit of pressure on the Australian ahead of him and see where he can take that position. But that was Jaden Harrison who just re-entered the track, and he is now fallen all the way back now into P13, P14. Mission Wallace is the one right behind him and pulling to see if he can gain back that position. Jaden Harrison now the biggest loser of lap 1. So we're not sure exactly what had happened, but still, nonetheless, Rohir Robinson now takes P1, Raven Plummer in P2, Roger Keller in P3, and Kurt Moss on the hunt for that final podium position. Never count out Mr. Massive. Daniel Velez clearly made that move stick on the Australian of John Singleton, so I'm sure John just relinquished that one as easy as he could. But Luis Arenas now trying to see if he can make a move stick on the Australian. Does he make it stick? And yes, he does. Luis Arenas now promoted into P6 and definitely gets a run up coming out of turn 2 and 3 now, and will be protecting that position as he has Australian there right on the left hand side. Will be getting the inside line heading now into turn 4. So who will be victorious and who is late on the brakes? John there being extra cautious. Luis taking that corner as best as he can, and that is a move stuck well by the Colombian to take P6 away from the Australian. Eastman now the one. He looked rapid in the practice session. These two did make contact last week, so clearly this is a rivalry on the way. He did design that livery for Mr. John and Rodrigo for AC Karting, so they're friends off the track and obviously going to be enemies on. Kimani Eastman looking rapid in the rear end, maybe taking a little peek on the Australian to see if maybe this is a moment where he's going to make that move and make a move stick on the car ahead. He has both P6 and P7 in sights. Rohir Robinson with the fastest set lap so far of the race, 2 seconds clear of the car behind him in Roger Keller. And most drivers, Daniel Velez the only driver in the 59s to look like he can even contest with Rohir Robinson. Rohir did come second and third in last week's race. I'm sure he will be trying to stamp back his dominance and gain back his position and points over the championship leader. The ballast, though, substance ballast is implemented. 60 kilograms is the maximum a driver can get. Rohir Robinson at the moment is, I think, at about 25 kilograms. No, 20 kilograms. Daniel Velez is at 25 kilograms. So he does have an advantage over the next few behind him and has found the pace. He, as always, takes the sandbags out at the last minute just to make that move stick. But there goes Kimani Eastman getting a better run on the Australian. Later on the brakes, looks to take that position, and there he goes to take P7 away and is now on the hunt for Luis Arenas in P6, and that is Kimani Eastman with a move well done. John Singleton now has a Jamaican and a Trinidadian in his rearview mirror. Had a brilliant qualifying session, but clearly feeling the fatigue setting in at the moment, and I am waiting to see what will happen with him in the next few stages. But as we speak, Luis Arenas 8 tenths off of Daniel Velez, and Luis Arenas, sorry, my apologies, Kimani Eastman right there in the mix as well, waiting to pounce on any mistake to be had. But John as well has not given up his position in any way, shape or form, so he will be definitely looking to see where he can make that position. Davil Park as well is closing down. 1.3 was the gap last lap. It is now down to a second. Rohir Robinson, the first driver in the 57s, so he's clearly not feeling the effects. But there goes John now will have to, I thought, would have gone defensive early and covered that inside line, but clearly the Ville Park now just taking that time to make that move stick as quickly as possible, and the two are on a drag race to see who will be the later breaker of the two as they head down now into turn one. The Ville Park first time on the brakes, on the pedals and wheel setup in a Caribbean Touring Car Series, and there he goes to take P8 away from the Australian and make his way up the field. Jaden Harrison is the next driver who will be taking a little bit of watch on. He's now back in the points position in P10, and he has the Australian ahead of him in his sights. He does have a few seconds to go before he catches up to him, so we'll just continue to ride along board with John here as Jaden will be on the hunt, and I'm sure Ricardo and Ruben behind will be trying to use them. We'll be using them to catch up to the cars ahead of them. This is the next closest battle here between the Swiss driver and the Jamaican. This is for the final podium position with Kurt Moss there in the slipstream of Roger Kello, and I will admit that the slipstream is very powerful with this new generation of Caribbean touring cars, and Roger looking very early on the brakes there, maybe thinking he can possibly get a switcheroo on the Jamaican, but there they go side by side it seems, and there he did make the move or gain back that position away, maybe using the the hybrid system, my apologies, to gain back that position, because he looked rapid on that start finish stretch, already going defensive, trying to break the toe, and now heads down into turn one, and Kurt there heavy on the brakes, tries to see where he can maybe make back that position, and Daniel Velez, that does put him right there in the mix and the pole to see where he can catch back up to these drivers ahead. Kurt Moss now is about 5/10 up or narrow on the car ahead, so he will be definitely trying to see if he can make up that position as quickly as possible. Colombian Daniel Velez of Noble Racing as well is making his way through to see where he can fight and find himself in the mix. I am apologetic because we did miss that overtake on John Singleton for P10. He has been relegated down now into P10. Jaden Harrison in P9 and is on the hunt for the Ville Park in P8. Then Kimani Eastman not too far up the road, but we'll continue to ride along board with them. But we don't want to miss out on the action as Kurt Moss now heads down now to take that position from Roger Kello and moves up into P3. Roger, I'm sure, will not be looking to concede that too quickly, but at the same time, Daniel Velez is right there on the rear view, trying to see where he can even pounce and maybe make a move stick. You will look at the exit speed of that BMW as it hogs the outside curb or paint of that corner, and the two will be trying to catch back up, but Roger Kello gets at the inside line and takes that line away from Mr. Kurt Moss there to head down now into turn one. And I'm sure he will be trying to defend his position as best as possible, and does take the position back from Kurt Massive there, and Kurt is now back again under threat by Daniel Velez. So Daniel just sitting down in the mix, waiting to see who is going to make a move or a mistake first, and then just pounce and see where he can gain that advantage. He is in right there in the rear view of that Toyota, that Ford Focus, my apologies. Kurt normally driving the Toyota Corolla, but this evening in that Ford Focus, so he's definitely looking like he's enjoying it and looking very late on the brakes. There is Daniel Velez, but nonetheless, Kurt looking like he had to kind of ease off of the brake a little bit too early to make sure that there wasn't any contact between himself and the Colombian behind him. But the trio are fighting it out. 10 minutes remaining is the gap and we'll just take a look now to see how far Jaden has caught back up to Deville Park, still about 2 seconds off. So in the meantime, we don't want to miss the action. We'll stick and ride along board with the Ford Focus of Mr. Kurt Moss, who, as they head down now into Ascari to see if he can maybe get a position there on the exit. He always looks very quick here, uses that sausage curb and comes right around to see where he can gain that advantage. Looking very squirrely is Kurt Moss, but does hold back the car, and did that put him out? He did look like he went extremely wide, and that did put Daniel Velez in position to take P4 and is now on the hunt for Roger Keller. Roger will be putting on the defense of his life with that BMW in the rear end of his Toyota Corolla. Roger only 2/10 clear of the Colombian behind the Jamaican of Kurt Moss as well. Did lose out a little bit of time, but I'm sure with the fighting to come in the next few moments, Kurt will definitely be trying to catch back up, or will be catching back up to the mix in front of him. Jaden Harrison as well. We'll take a look at him as he's now about 1.5 seconds, 1.54 seconds off of his Jamaican counterpart in front of him, Deville Park. So he will definitely be trying to see where he can gain as many points to catch back up to the pack as possible. This is where, ladies and gentlemen, that success ballast comes in, because now at the end of this race, if this is how it ends and Jaden Harrison does not finish in the top 5, he would have some points or percentage removed from his ballast. But that being said, he is now right there on the rear end of Deville Park, so we continue to ride along board here as he takes a look on the inside and gets that move quickly taken on Deville Park. Deville looking like he took that a little bit too wide and erratic, and there goes Jaden Harrison now into P8. P7 and P6 are also very much so up for play as we speak, so we'll ride along with Jaden for the moment's time to see where he will come in the next few moments. Ladies and gentlemen, what a race this has been. The beauty of it as well is there are not just one races, but 2, 3, 4 races to be watched at the moment. Everybody having their plethora of battles and fighting and action, so we know that the drivers are enjoying themselves. Drivers taking peaks where they can. There goes Kimani Eastman taking a look on the inside, takes a dive bomb on the inside, on the outside, my apologies, now goes on the inside, but covered off by the Colombian. This fighting will be putting Jaden Harrison right there in the mix for the battle, so we continue to ride along board with him and them as well. Just fixing something quickly on our information screen, and that looks like we've got everything there. And there is Jaden Harrison there right in the rear view, looking and seeing where he can get his moment to pounce on the cars ahead. Kurt Moss, unfortunately, however, looking like he's falling off of the rear end of that Colombian. He's now about 2 seconds off, so we'll continue to ride along board and watch what's happening there. Kurt Moss now 6. Yeah, we'll continue to watch that, but nonetheless, we'll continue to ride along board with Jaden Harrison now as he's heading now to the rear end of his countryman Himani Eastman, who is trying desperately to try and get away, but the defense from the Minister of Defense of Colombia in Mr. Luis Arenas is just carrying Jaden Harrison right into the fold to see where he can gain back that position. But Kimani now stuck in a sandwich between the Jamaican and the Colombian of the two Ford Focus and Toyota Corolla. I'm sure these drivers will be fighting it out. 5 minutes remaining, or 4 minutes remaining, under 5, let me say, as the fight and battling continues. At this point, who could be your driver of the day? Honestly, Luis Arenas is putting on a brilliant defense, and so has Roger Keller. So we continue to ride along board with them. But there is Jaden Harrison, there is Kimani Eastman, as the three are trying to make it three wide as they head down now into Parabolica. And will there be contact? Yes, there is, but not enough to throw off too much. And there goes Jaden Harrison to take P7 and does get a good run as well to try and see if he can even make a late dive bomb now as they head down now into turn one out on the outside of Parabolica. Jaden Harrison in the slipstream of the Colombian will be trying to see if he can make that move stick. Heading down now into turn one, what will be the case as he takes a look on the inside, brakes a little bit early, maybe try and spook the Colombian, but that did not mess anything up for him as he did get a slightly slower exit there, but does break the momentum of Jaden Harrison there, heading down now into turn 1, 2, and now 3. What a battle this has been. Kimani Eastman now trying to see where he can catch back up and see if he can mount an attack in the next few moments, but as it stands, Luis Arenas is putting on a world of defense. And we just take a quick look now at the trio between Kurt Moss and Daniel Velez and Roger Keller as those three have caught back up to each other with 3 minutes remaining. Jaden Harrison taking a look, looking just like what Kimani Eastman was doing, but trying to throw an extra mix in the screw to see where he can maybe force a mistake or send a late dive bomb and catch up or pass the Colombian ahead of him. He does have the slipstream here now. The Minister of Defense in Mr. Arenas is going to be looking to cover up as much as possible. This is not the most ideal place to overtake or even consider it, but just extra look and just throw a dummy, maybe throw your competitor off his edge as the two come through a scary. There is Kimani Eastman and Jaden Harrison there looking very quick as he comes now on the outside of the Colombian driver, and he does make that move stick, goes to the inside line, and that is his move done. But the Colombian is not giving it up too quickly as the two head down now into Parabolica. Kimani Eastman as well is looking to see where he can, but covered off is the Jamaican by Luis Arenas as the three come through Parabolica and head down now into turn 1. What a battle that was, but it is not over. Jaden Harrison covering the inside. Luis Arenas now trying to see if he can get the slipstream, comes on the outside, and he will not have the ideal position, but nonetheless going into turn 2, if he can maintain that position. No, he cannot, and there goes Kimani Eastman to take that, but they're to make contact, but not enough to make that move stick. If Kimani can stay right there on the outside, that would put him right in contention to take that move into turn 4, but no, Luis Arenas putting on the defense of his life there to protect his bottom and cover himself and protect that position from the Jamaican Jaden Harrison there on the inside. As stated, that is going to be the ideal position as the two make contact slightly, but not enough to make a mistake or force a mistake. Deville Park pulling a through goes Hamilton as he now comes into the mix, and the 4 of them are going through turns 5 and 6, and I am definitely losing my voice as Jaden now is trying to put on the defense of his life, and Kimani makes his way through to take that position from the Colombian, and the Colombian now has the Jamaican of Deville Park stuck in this battery of battery of Jamaicans fighting along and against him. But Jaden Harrison now looking like he's finally gotten the moves to stick, but Kimani Eastman now is definitely trying to see where he can force a mistake or even see if he can gain back an advantage over the drivers ahead, as you see them using as much of the curb as possible, especially that sausage curb. What a battle that has been, ladies and gentlemen. And quickly I will just take a brief look now at the top 5, my apologies, as Kurt Moss now is on the hunt for Daniel Velez now as they come out of Parabolica. In the slipstream is Kurt Moss. He will be getting the outside line into turn 1, but if he can keep the speed up into turn 2 would be the run that he so desperately desires, because you'd have the inside for turn 2 as well as turn 4, but not close enough. Or is he, as he goes side by side coming out of turn 1, turn 2, and they head down now into turn 3, and Daniel Velez putting on as best of a defense as possible. And he is definitely, this is, ladies and gentlemen, it should be the final lap, and it will confirm that in only a moment's time, as Mr. Roy Robinson, who has not put one foot wrong, is just enjoying himself, and the front of the pack a very decent gap to the cars behind him, and he is definitely on a Sunday night stroll but these two are definitely not, as they're still fighting for position. P4 is a position to be had. That BMW covering off Mr. Massive. Mr. Massive starting in P7, made his way up to P4, up to at least P3, fighting with Roger Kello, and then went off track for that moment's time, lost about 2 seconds, caught back up to the Colombian, and the two are now fighting it out as they head down up to Ascari, and side by side they go, but the inside line is ideal, but there goes Kurt Massive, taking the position away and hugging that line, coming out of Ascari to take P4, and he does look like he's in prime position to maintain that P4 position. Daniel Velez now will be kicking himself and trying to catch back up. He does have a few moments remaining, but there is Rohey Robinson to come now around the final corner to finish off in P1. Rohey Robinson, your race winner. In P2 comes Raven Plummer to finish off very confident, and the Swiss driver of Roger Killer in P3. There's a drag race to the finish line, but not close enough. Kurt Moss in P4. P5 goes to Daniel Velez. Jaden Harrison comes around with Kimani Eastman in P6 and P7. Luis Arenas in P8. Mikhail Charles there. Looked like there's a little bit of drama as he has moved up on Deville Park, and Mikhail Charles takes P9. Deville Park in the final points position in P10. John Singleton in P11. Ruben Espinosa, assuming that might be gas running out. Milton Zuniga in P13, started P18 and is now in P13. This will be a reverse grid for the entire grid and not just from P1. But what a battle that was between P3 and P5 and P6 and P8. What a kind of a level of racing that we've never seen here at the Caribbean Touring Car Championship, and we've had 18 drivers now for 2 weeks in a row. This is the kind of racing that we want to see, but what a beautiful battle this has been. What an absolute beautiful battle this has been. The top three should be coming around now to take their victory lap. Raven Plummer, Rohey Robinson and Roger Kello. The three drivers, three different countries. We have Jamaica, Switzerland and an American on the top three podium. And that is just a brilliant cap off to race one of this evening. 13 laps have elapsed, and Rohey Robinson of the Jamaica Simulation Racing Association, what an absolute epic battle that he had put on today as the three come in to take that final picture. And ladies and gentlemen, what a battle that was. And ladies and gentlemen, what a battle that was. Listening and debriefing with the drivers. Everybody seems like they had a blast of a time. Some complaining on how is it that Mr. Robinson is on such a pace with 20 kilograms of ballast, but nonetheless, he is definitely still finding pace here this evening and putting some pressure on some of these guys this evening. So just a reminder, we will have a reverse grid of the entire field. Oh, my apologies, ladies. I'm going to fix this rain quickly. Ladies and gentlemen, we will go racing. Everybody can see the rain, everybody can feel the effects of the rain. Had to clarify and confirm with the issues that we've had in the beginning stages of the first race qualifying. So we have gotten confirmation this is going to be a very interesting race, if I do say so myself. but the cautions have been sent out to the drivers, and these are not rookies. Again, we do have or enjoy these races as best as possible. We do have a few persons who are a little bit lower skill level than others, but we're all developing from one stage to the next. I'm just listening to the comedy of these drivers. Very nervous about what's about to come in the next few stages, but nonetheless, we have 20 minutes of racing to come. And boy, this is going to be a very, very, very entertaining, to say the least. As we speak, we have Mission Wallace in P1, Gary Otero of Colombia in P2, Rodrigo Wild in P3, Nicholas Donald in P4, Ricardo Reyes in P5, Milton Zuniga in P6, Deville Park in P7, John Singleton in P8, Mikhail Charles in P9, Luis Arenas in P10, Jaden Harrison in P11, Kimani Eastman in P12, Kurt Moss in P13, Daniel Velez in P14, Raven Plummer in P15, Roger Kello in P16, and Rohey Robinson should be in first position to take that, 18th position to take the 18. But that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to get racing. And we are off, ladies and gentlemen, and right behind Mission Wallace, as you can see, the spray is right there already, and there goes Mission Wallace touching the brakes, and will that be? Ooh, and luckily no incidents. What a brilliant drive by the drivers there. Mission Wallace there touching the brakes in a position where again, with the new update to CSP, it will, if you brake on the wet line, it will send you off the track. But there are the drivers, people going sideways already, as we watch along with Kurt Moss there, who is making his way downtown, walking very fast, as he's right there on the rear end of Jaden Harrison. And a safety car has been called. And the leader should be dropping his speed to 50 kilometers. Everybody should be following as it stands, as there is an incident at the back of the pack. So we're right along board now with Roy Robinson, who should be making his way up to the back. And ladies and gentlemen, we did have a safety car called, and unfortunately a few drivers were not in the voice chat, so we were trying to get through to them, which is why we ended up having to take another safety car lap. Unfortunately, they had to be picked. With that being said, everybody else is very much so in the mix and ready for the race. We have all drivers lining up now as they head down now into Ascari. We have 15 drivers remaining. Again, unfortunately, we missed out for the drivers, but nonetheless, we will keep going on with the race. And this is like real life racing. Once the rain comes into the drama also comes into the mix. But that being said, ladies and gentlemen, as we come out of Parabolica, the racers will be getting ready to get racing, and in only a moment's time we will go green light racing. Green light racing, green light, green light, green light. And Michael Charles, they're getting a brilliant start to get away from Luis Arenas. Jaden Harrison as well in the slipstream, but also the spray of the Colombian ahead of him takes a look on the inside line, which will be ideal as they head down now into turn one. And these drivers looking and they make contact. Not enough to call a safety car, but there is, who was that? I think who was that? I think I will take a look in a moment's time. As we have it was Daniel Velez there, unfortunately losing out. And I heard a little bit of complaining there from some of the drivers. So I was listening out as race director. Unfortunately, we are a little bit under staffed here at the moment as we are in the process of moving our headquarters to a brand new location, somewhere more conducive to development and growth of our racers. Kimani Eastman just sending a message over to tell me that unfortunately he has been disconnected with his PC crash on his end, so unfortunate for him there, and we are sorry because he had such a brilliant race in the first race. I know he was looking forward to race 2, especially in the wet conditions. But there you see the BMW of Michael Charles being chased by Mr. Jaden Harrison there in P2, Ricardo Reyes in P4, John Singleton, who looks very good here, is just maintaining as he and his teammate Rodrigo are in at P5 and P6. Deville Park there, who's that going sideways? Was that Michelle Wallace? Looking like he was going sideways there on the exit of Ascari, and yes, it was him. Clearly not a fan of the rain here this evening on his debut here in the Caribbean Touring Car Championship. Has not seen power servers in a while, so unfortunately has a little bit of what would you call it, getting back used to, as we would call it or consider it back in the day. But there is Rohit Robinson as well in P14, still surprised to see he's not making inroads into the top or the cars ahead, as he's typically one who favors the rain. But the race will still continue. I'm sure he will make his way down slowly but surely Ricardo Reyes now is still very much so on the hunt for P4. P5 and P6 are very comfortable between the two teammates. I'm sure not a lot of fighting will be going on. Who was that I noticed? Was that Nicholas Donald, who was basically off the track coming into turn 1 there, but nonetheless we'll watch and go to see what he has in the mix. It was either him or Mr. Park ahead of him. Roger Keller there in the Toyota Corolla, looking very drifty, and there he goes. Hopefully the other drivers could see, and did they get out of it? Yes, they did, luckily, as Daniel Velez was coming around and could only see, and what's happening there, could only see the side view of that Toyota Corolla. That Toyota Corolla is just fully sideways 99% of the time, it seems, as Roger Keller now is relegated to P14. Deville Park in P13. Raven Plummer chasing or riding right behind the likes of Mr. Rohey Robinson ahead of him. Mission Wallace as well. The two Jamaicans fighting it out. Raven now, she's trying to see if she can make the moves quick and fast on the Jamaican, who's seemingly trying to close her out, but I'm sure will not have the correct pace or line there to cover off that threat from the American. Raven now promoted into P11, and Michelle Wallace there trying to stay as far out of the way. Did look like maybe not pushed wide, it was just in the wrong position at the wrong time. Nicholas Donald in P7 still fighting it out. John and Rodrigo as well, still the two to be fighting it out. The closest battle so far is the Ford Focus and the BMW M2, so we'll ride along board with the Focus of Jaden Harrison. Give you a little point of view of what the driver is seeing at the moment. You can see them coming off of the racing line. That is a rougher part of the circuit. That is where least cars are going to be, so that means less tire, what we consider rubbing off of the tires, and just not smoothing off that section of the track. So right there is a rougher end. That is where you're going to see these two drivers, especially they picked up on that little trick to stick on the dry, or not the dry, but the rougher part of the track off of the racing line to see where they can maybe gain an advantage, and there they go. That's where they're going to get most of their grip. As you see that BMW and the rear-wheel drive BMW looking very hard to drive, as the two now head down into turn 5 and then 6, but Mikhail does have the inside line there and tries to cover it off, and it does look like he does, but once you go on those curbs, it's going to be slippery slopes, and he does almost make contact, but Jaden Harrison and him are trying to be as clean as possible. Jaden just backing off and saying, all right, I know I have the pace, I know I have more grip, as long as I can. At this point, Jaden should even be able to use more of the curbs than what I'm noticing Mikhail is using, because those curbs should be as slippery as the banana slips in Mario Kart. But there he goes, maintaining that position. Rohey Robinson now is on the hunt for Luis Arenas in that Toyota Corolla, and I'm sure as it comes through this mist of rain here, he passes the the Colombian, my apologies, and the two are now fighting it out. As we notice, even is that Daniel Velez. No, that was not Daniel Velez. That looked like Ricardo Reyes. As the next three cars are BMWs between Rodrigo, Ricardo, and John. And Rohey now will be definitely trying his best to see if he can gain that position. Does look like he gets a run on the Australian ahead of him, and Mr. Arenas, the Colombian, seeing if he can just squeeze in the mix as well. Brakes a little bit earlier, but Rohey Robinson now on the brakes a little bit later. And who is that gone careening? Is that Mr. Donald? Unfortunately for him, does or will not be gaining back that position from the drivers ahead. And was that John? That looks as if it was John who may have gone off track there. It's one or the other, but John is the one that is relegated now into P10, and after having such a brilliant run there not too long ago. Daniel Velez now with a 219.7, so very much so clear 2 seconds clear off of the race leader, as a matter of fact. So he's clearly finding a little bit of pace here. And who is that looking in the opposite direction? It is Ricardo, the Brazilian, who is now going to be re-entering the track, and I'm hoping will not get in the way. No, he will not. Re-enters as cleanly as he can and is now relegated back now into P9. Nicholas Donald in P8. And the battle continues. Kurt Moss now as well, just maintaining at this point and keeping clean from the drivers around him. Rohir Robinson has just picked these drivers off one by one. Was in last position, P14, only about 3 laps ago. Now makes his way up into P5. Daniel Velez as well in P7. This is the beauty of rain racing, because it does give you a little bit of extra to think about. As you can see him, but the front wheel drive cars, I'm guessing, will have a little, well, I would say an advantage, but Michael Charles is holding his own in first place with 2-second gap on Jaden Harrison, his closest competitor. So I wanted to say that maybe there was an advantage, but no. The grip is as best as possible. As you see, even Rohir Robinson has picked up on that little trick to just use the outside, not the racing line. If you use the racing line, that's the smoothest part of the track, and there you can see him literally just gaining on Rodrigo, and there he goes now to take P4 away from Rodrigo Senowal. And now I'm even considering, could that extra ballast give them a little bit of extra traction here in the rain as they come on through the lap? And you can see the line difference. Rodrigo on the racing line, Rohir Robinson off, and Rohir is just pulling away from the drivers ahead, but nonetheless we continue to ride along board that. But Ricardo Reyes now in a battle with the American Raven Plummer. She is looking to gain back that P9 position away from the Brazilian in front of her, and she will definitely be hoping and praying. But 2.5 minutes remaining in this race to go, and plus 1 lap obviously, so that's roughly about 3 laps of racing, depending on where the race leader will pass the line. It could be 2, it could be 1. It's roughly about 2.5. Yeah, no, I'm gonna and that is Ricardo again. Brake on the racing line and you're going to have problems. You have to be as careful as possible as Raven, now having to take the runoff area to try and keep that position safe. And there is Ricardo making up positions, thus concede it back and can retake his position, as he only had gained 1 position on the car ahead. Maybe did get a little bit of an advantage on the cars behind, but nonetheless Raven and John did have to take almost evasive maneuvers. Roger Killer there coming in like a wrecking ball, does break a little bit late, and it looks like he has made that move stick, but he is side by side now with the likes of Raven Plummer and John Singleton. But there he goes, my apologies, as he's trying to make that fight on the American. Side by side they go as they come around by turn 4. Jaden Harrison now catching back up as well to the top race leader, my apologies, and we'll be definitely trying to see where he can maybe gain an advantage. There you can see him there just sticking in that slipstream. A minute remaining, so that means it will be 2 more laps of racing to go. You have this one to finish and then a +1 lap. Jaden does have the fastest sector 2, so we will continue to watch on board with him to see if he can gain back that position on the car ahead. And Rohir Robinson as well, only 3 seconds off of Kurt Moss, so Kurt may be looking for a Sunday night stroll, but as it stands, it looks like he might just see the rear end or the front end of that Hyundai Elantra. But the two, Jaden Harrison and Michael Charles, do make contact, and Jaden Harrison did wait for him. And will that bring the pack closer to them? Not close enough, but there is the front end of that Hyundai Elantra as the Ford Focus goes sideways between Mr. Robinson and Mr. Moss and Mr. Robinson. So that battle is going to be hot for P3 as well as a fight for P1. Ladies and gentlemen, you notice how the rain is literally spraying up on these windshields. The drivers are there, he goes touching the curb. Again, that is not what you want. That is a slippery section of the track. And ladies and gentlemen, we have one more lap after this to go, and Jaden Harrison is pushing to see where he can gain back that position and maybe even see if he can front an attack to take back P1 from Mr. Michael Charles. He had finished in P6 or P5 in the first race, and then is now on the podium step for the second podium step to see if he can maybe gain back a position. Rohir Robinson already has caught up to Mr. Kurt Moss, and he has made the move stick. Unfortunately, no replay now, but we will have replay for next week. I promise you that, especially for our next endurance event that we will have coming up in the next month, ladies and gentlemen. But we'll stick and ride along board again with Mr. Jaden Harrison and Kurt Moss. Jaden Harrison and Michael Charles, as the two are coming down now into Parabolica to start the last and final lap. And we know this is where Jaden will be putting on as much pressure as he can possibly put to see if he can gain back that position, but not looking too comfortable is Jaden Harrison as a gap. It looks like it's even building up a little bit more to the Trinidad driver of Michael Charles, but we'll continue to ride along and watch to see what happens there. Kurt Moss as well, not looking like he's going to be able to front an attack, but still with an extra lap of racing to go, you never know, anything can happen. 2:18, almost a second clear of the next fastest lap, which was a 2:19 set by Daniel Velez a couple laps ago. So Rohir Robinson definitely finding pace here. I am definitely wondering if maybe that ballast helped him out more than hurt him, as in the rain at least. But he finished first in this first race. Where will he finish here? It's looking like third position, but nonetheless we will continue to ride along board. Jaden Harrison looking like he's losing all of his time now and giving up on that battle to the cars ahead. We'll just cycle through quickly to see if there are any other battles, but as you see, seems it looks as if the drivers just want to bring this one home and call it even splits. But what an evening of racing it has been, ladies and gentlemen. We are on the final lap of racing. This has been such a drama-filled race. We've had to kick a few drivers, unfortunately, and we do hate to do it, especially when we get the numbers. But unfortunately, if you're not in the voice chat, we say it in the driver's briefing, if you're not in the voice chat and we cannot reach you during the race, it is likely you will be receiving a penalty as severe as a race kick. As you saw earlier, a safety car was called, and the two were very much so still on the fight and racing to get this race to continue on the race without slowing down. But as we call the race, Michael Charles comes around the final corner now, heads down into Parabolica. The two definitely figured out that wet line is better than the racing line, and the Trinidad and Tobago driver coming around Parabolica, the final corner, taking a little bit of sideways action, seeing the mist coming around as he crosses the line in P1. Michael Charles finishes off this evening's racing in P1. Jaden Harrison in P2. Roy Robinson coming around the final corner as well, had set a purple sector 1. Will he get an extra point for fastest lap? Yes, he will. And there he goes, 2:18.603, the Daniel Ricciardo of this evening. Kurt Massive to take P4, Luis Arenas in P5, Daniel Velez of Nova Racing in P6, had that off at the early start in that little drama, but still comes around for a lot of damage limitation to finish off in P6. Rodrigo Sinowal in P7 of AC Karting, the better of his teammate, finishes off in P7. Roger Keller, the Swiss driver, in P8. Nicholas Donald in P9. Deville Park in P10. And Ricardo Reyes in P11. John Singleton of AC Karting in P12. Raven Plummer in P13. And the rest of drivers DNF to finish and cap off tonight's racing. What a battle this has been. Ladies and gentlemen, we will have interviews in only a moment's time. And ladies and gentlemen, what an evening of racing that was. We will have our top three from each race start and give us some interviews here this evening. We will start with the Swiss driver, Mr. Roger Kello. I was trying to get through to him before. Roger, can you hear me? Yes, hearing you now.
Yeah, so you
Roger,
can hear me?
yes, we can hear you now. Thank you.
Oh, okay. I don't know why the mic not working.
You're muted
Oh,
in the other room, but thankfully you're good
oh,
now. Yes.
okay.
Um, well, firstly, we can't wait to hear your take on the rain race, but nonetheless, you finished in P3 in the first race, after
Yes,
an absolutely epic battle between yourself, Kurt, and Luis Daniel Velez. Could you walk us through that battle?
yes, that was very hard. But I give my best that I can do.
Hmm.
It's very funny for drive safeties and don't have accident, no.
Definitely.
But I
Um,
want to say sorry to other people. Sometime I change the line need now too late, little bit too late.
I did hear a little bit of complaining with that regard, but nonetheless, we know it's nothing intentional. It was
Mm,
a very grandeur form of defense, if we do say so ourselves. We had two ministers of defense between yourself and Luis Arenas this evening.
yes,
Uh,
yes.
what were your takes on the rain? It looked
Oh,
very dramatic.
Yes, very dramatic. The car was so bad. Same, it's not rain, it's snow. Same right on a snowy road.
No, I can imagine, especially with so many safety car starts and the tires being
Yes,
extremely cold. I can imagine that that would have been a
yes,
headache. But nonetheless, man,
yes.
congrats. I'm happy to see you back on the podium in P3.
Yes, thank you very much.
Definitely, and looking forward to seeing you again next week with the Imola circuit for round 3 of the Italian Tour.
Yes, you can see me there. Sure.
Absolutely. All right, Roger. Thank you as always, man.
Thank you too. Bye bye.
Bye.
Have a nice day.
You too, and bless you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Roger Keller, who finished P3 in the first race. So a good collection of points for himself there. And now we have Miss Raven Plummer, who finished in P2 in the first race after a brilliant start to get away from the drama and even found some ridiculous pace, making it all the way down into the 57s. Raven, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Raven, could you, well, first of all, congratulations on P2 in the first race, and we'll get to the second race because I'd love to hear the drama that unfolded for you in that regard. But nonetheless, congratulations in the first race. Could you walk us through your thoughts on that race? And, you know, just the thoughts on race 1, the start, getting away cleanly and just making your way through as quickly as possible, and then even finding the pace into the 157s.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what it was, right? I started in 4th. I was kind of bummed out by the fact it was a rolling start because I could have taken 1st with the BMW's launch, right? But, you know, going through the start, I guess they were just too eager to fight. It is Monza. If you're not throwing hands into T1, someone else will. So you might as well start the fight, right? I know a lot of people think that. And so, you know, we saw those incidents happen. I was able to take P2. I saw Roger, who is blazingly fast, by the way. He's surprising me with his pace. And I believe Kurt right behind there. So I knew I needed to pull away immediately. So I was using all of my ERS out of turn 2. And, I'm sorry, my KERS out of turn 2 and just trying to find pace. I almost treated it like a practice session, almost like a qualifying session. And, you know, as you saw there near the end, with the fuel low, the tires still had a lot of life in them. I was able to just eke out 10th after 10th after 10th until I found that pace.
Nice. And I mean, even seeing the 157, we were wondering how that was going to come into play, but you just were consistent and kept your nose out of trouble. And unfortunately, now we have to speak about your second race and the drama that unfolded. I heard some apologies coming your way at the end of race 2, but could you walk us through what happened, especially at the safety car's restart, if I remember correctly?
Yep. So I just got lucky off the start. I got a really good drive out. And the reason is very obvious to me. It's because I kept roughly the same setup from race 1 in the sense that I had both traction control and ABS off. So that gave me the amazing launch and amazing drive, but at the same time, it completely ruined my race because I could not brake. So, you know, I was able to get up to 8th. I was like, okay, I'm going to be in the middle of the pack. Let's see how it goes. Because like I started near the back, right, and I was expecting to finish in that same position, if not the very last place, due to the ABS issue. But that drive found me up in 8th. On the safety car restart, I had the inside of turn 1. But of course, this was an extremely long safety car with extremely cold tires on an extremely wet road. I don't know why whoever was on the outside tried to hang it around the outside. I mean, I understand if it's tires are a little bit warmer, you have more confidence in the car, but that early on when no one is going to be able to make any adjustments to their line or even choose a good line to start out with because of the issues with the restart, they ended up hitting me. I went into the gravel and started again from the back of the pack. I was able to find a few more positions, but, you know, I lost them just as quickly because I had to brake roughly 100 meters before everyone else, and even then, the slightest lockup on any one tire would immediately lock up the rest of the tires, and even letting go of the brakes and reapplying them to get the brakes back on time. At that point in the rain, you've already lost your line, so you can't make the corner. And so by the end of the race, I'd finished with 3 track cuts, and I would have had many more had Real Penalty not given me the leniency to kind of wait out the track cut for it to become not a penalty,
Right.
and just not add to my warning count.
I mean, even speaking of that, I remember there was one moment where, trying to remember the driver, I think it may have been John, and
I'm sorry, if you're talking, I can't hear you.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, give us 1 second. Can you hear me
Hello,
now?
I can hear you now, yes.
Okay, sorry about that.
Oh, good. Did any of my explanation get cut off?
No, it was just you couldn't hear me, but we heard everything
Okay.
clearly. But
Lovely.
nonetheless, it was an epic drive in my opinion. I mean, I do recall one time heading down into turn 1 where it seemed, I think it was Ricardo, the Brazilian driver, may have touched the wet patch on the racing line on the braking, and that caused you to have to go a little bit extra deep, and that just put you off the racing line and under threat by John and another driver. That's my notable moment from the second race, at least, because you're looking like you're lining up a proper move for that one. But nonetheless, epic drive in race 1, and it was fun to watch you for race 2. Unfortunate for you in those circumstances, nonetheless, but definitely happy to have you back there, Raven, and looking forward to seeing you for round 3 if we can, and for the rest of the season, as a matter of fact.
Yep, thank you so much. I look forward to it too.
Thank you. And we'll talk soon. Bless you. And ladies and gentlemen, that was Raven Plummer, who finished in P2 in the first race, and I think it was P13 in the second race. And as you could hear, a little disgruntled from the rain semantics, but nonetheless, what a brilliant drive that has been. And now we have Mr. My apologies, we have Mr. Charles here, who came first in the second race. I'm trying to remember how he finished in the first race. Mikhail Charles, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Talk us through the first race, what had happened with you there. I know in the early stages, I believe you had a spin out.
Yeah. So in the first race, I tried to go on the outside of Rohe. I thought he'd have left more space, but I think Jaden was like on the inside of him. So we were like 3 wide, and I had 1 tire on the grass. So
Once you touch brake,
I tried to back out of it to kind of go back onto the asphalt, but it didn't work. And I braked on the grass and spun straight out.
right.
And that was basically the end of my first race. Yeah.
And I mean, let me just say, I was so sure that there was going to be a safety car called in both race 1 and race 2, but in race 1 especially, when I saw that. But luckily, everybody got out unscathed. In race 2 now with the rain, I know you were hoping and praying for the rain for the majority of the time. You look like you're being hounded by Jaden Harrison for the majority of that race, and then as you two came out of, was it turn 5? I think it was turn.
That's when I like touched the curb and like spun.
Yes, a
like,
slight
yeah,
spin,
yeah.
right. And it looked as if that just threw Jaden off for as much as you needed it to. But could you walk us
Yeah.
through the second race and what your thoughts were on it?
Well, the start of the race, I just kind of got past everyone while they kind of crashed. And then after the safety car, I started first. And then Gene was up on my deck the entire race. So it was fun. But I think I ran him a bit too wide a few times. So I don't know how that will go, but that is my bad.
Mhm.
That when I spun out, it worked out well for me and it worked out well for Jaden. Like I had no control of the cars, kind of went straight across the track trying to correct it.
Right,
So that was just unfortunate for him.
right. And it did force you to have to, well, force him to take evasive action, but nonetheless,
Yeah.
nonetheless, it was an epic drive from you, man. You handled that BMW in the rain very well, if I do say so myself. I saw a slight little twitch of the rear end on the final corner coming out of Parabolica, to finish
The
off the
entire rain,
race.
it was just sideways, all the way to like 2 fast corners.
Yep. And trust me, it was. I mean, we were wondering why you're using so much of the curb, but we just figured you were trying to make that car as wide as possible and force Jaden off of his line. But nonetheless, man, congrats on the position, and what an epic drive that was from you. And I know I'll see you next week, because if not, you and I will be fist fighting. So I will see you again next week for round 3 at the Monza Circuit. Mikhail Charles there finishing in P1. I think he did skip ahead of Jaden Harrison, actually. So I'm going to drag him now for his brief interview, and then we'll cap off the night with our race winner. Mikhail Charles, sir, thank you so much for joining us. Have a great evening. And ladies and gentlemen, that was Mikhail Charles. We now have Jaden Harrison, who I believe should be hearing us sooner than later, but I'm not seeing Jaden Harrison. How are you? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Jaden, well, first of all, I will apologize. I did skip over you and head to Mr. Charles there, but you did have an absolutely epic race 1 and race 2. We just want to go over quickly, well, not necessarily quickly, but we'd love your thoughts on that battle between yourself, was it Luis Arenas and Kimani Eastman? Even throwing the Ville part there in the mix as well. You did spin out, and I think we can start there. You spun out on lap 1 or lap 2, if I remember correctly, and had to fight your way back from final position or last position, which was a full grid of 18, all the way up to P6 or P5, was it? Could you walk us through that?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Like, I put the curb bad, and then I just spin out, so yeah, nothing I could have done, but I guess I did battle with Kumani and
Absolutely.
Lewis and
Absolutely, that battle was fun to watch. And as much as you can say it was a lot of damage limitation, if I remember correctly, it was P6. It could be P5. My
P6.
apologies, it was P6. So that does remove a little bit of the ballast off of your car for next week, but we'll talk about that in the spectrum of the week. But nonetheless, we want to talk quickly about race 2 now, where that fight with you and Mikhail Charles. He did admit that he may have run you wide a few too many times, but we'd love to get your thoughts of that battle, especially in the rain with these new rain physics.
yeah, I was pretty fast in the rain. I was getting up on him everywhere, but the 2 times I got to send a move, like he just missed his braking point or just couldn't make the corner and just ran me off wide. So in the rain, you have a specific line you have to take. So once you miss the opportunity, your race is done. So from those 2 attempts, my race was just finished from there.
We could tell, and we didn't know if it was demotivated or if it was just a case of just tired, because the driving in the rain especially can draw you a lot longer or more than you typically are. But nonetheless, man, congrats on tonight's race. I hope it was as fun for you as it's been for us, and I'm very excited to see you next week for round 3 at the Imola circuit for the Italian Tour.
Yeah.
All right, man.
And
Congrats.
also,
Yes.
the championship between me and Ray is separated by 1 point because Mikhail is now in silver class. So that P1 didn't count for P1 in silver. That P2 was P2 in silver class, not P1. So the championship battle is close, and Daniel can still come back if he places at the top next week.
And
Daniel
we've
and Roger
seen
are
his
tight.
pace. And we've seen their pace, especially tonight. Raven was even just bigging up Mr. Keller there for that battle. So I'm definitely seeing the success of the success ballast already, and looking forward to this championship. So, ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned to our social medias for the next update to the championship standings, as Jaden already figuring out the maths behind it. So definitely looking forward to round 3, 4, and 5 in the next few weeks. But Jaden Harrison, ladies and gentlemen, an epic race from him, and excited as always. The championship lead should be in favor of Rohe now, but nonetheless, I'm sure the two will be fighting it out for the next 3 rounds to see who will come out supreme. Ladies and gentlemen, Jaden Harrison, driver number 604.
Yeah.
And finally, ladies and gentlemen, we have our race winner, our Max Verstappen, taking P3 in the second race, P1 in the first race, getting the fastest lap on the last lap and the second to last lap. Mr. Rohe Robinson setting a blisteringly quick qualifying lap with a 157.397, a second clear of P3 and a few tenths clear of P2. Rohe, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm here.
I feel like that was a mouthful, sir. Can you walk us through race 1 as well as your fight through the pack for race 2?
Yeah, race 1 was pretty solid. I spoke to Jaden before saying that we need to cover off Mikhail. Can't let Mikhail get the jump on us. So said, so done. We were like 3 wide into T1, but made sure that Jaden was on the inside and tried to cover off Mikhail. But he bit off a little bit too much. So I think Jaden and I got the perfect start.
Definitely.
I would say.
Definitely.
But unfortunately, Jaden lost it on T1. Not T1. One.
Rabbi Ascari.
Yeah, it was sad to see, but
Trust
I
me.
had to keep pushing on.
Was it really
but-
sad for you, though, Rohe Robinson?
Pardon me?
Was it really sad for you?
Yeah, I mean, I was in P2, but I knew I had the pace to
Fight for people.
challenge him for the win.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just that I was more comfortable with him leading because I knew I had the pace. If he had the pace over me, then I would have been a little bit uncomfortable. But yeah, it was really sad to see that he went out like that.
Absolutely. And that could have been a very epic fight for the top
Yeah.
of the podium, I will admit.
And we even planned it. We said that either one of us is in the front, then we're going to push each other and just fight
Okay.
on the last 2 or 3 laps. You know,
Yeah.
that was the aim.
Yeah, sad to,
But-
to miss that one. I won't lie.
Yeah. I wondering if I even got any stream, you know, because I was out there. All the love.
Unfortunately, you got the last lap call out though. I promise you that much. And unfortunately, Jaden got a lot of it because he and Kimani and Luis Arenas had a brilliant battle for
Yeah.
P6 to P8
I
up to
need
P9.
to watch it.
Yeah,
I need to
you will
watch it.
enjoy that one.
But Raven kept me on my toes though, because I was watching her times, and towards the last 3 laps, last 4 laps, she was pushing faster than I was. So, and it was good to see, you know, 3 Artito old person being 1, 2,
In
3
one,
in
right.
race 1.
3 different countries.
Yeah, it shows the amount of laps we did in Artito on Monza. You know.
Fair
And-
enough.
That was the advantage I had over everyone, even Jaden. I have maybe more than 15,000 laps
Wow.
at month.
We did mention that this is clearly one of those tracks that you love because we know you love Brands Hatch, and clearly
Yeah.
this is the next one on that bucket list. So, again, epic drive from you, man. You look like you're in control for 90% of the time. I have 2 questions for you.
Yeah.
One, do you think anybody other than Jaden and Mikhail figured out the wet line in the second race?
I think Mikhail did.
Yeah, he
Mikhail
definitely did.
did.
Definitely.
I was watching the time and I saw that he was a little bit faster than Jaden, I think.
Mhm.
But he definitely did figure out the wet line, and we did mention it We did practice in the week, and Jaden discovered it, and we did mention it. But persons were still using
The racing line, the dry
the
line.
racing line, which is
Right.
not the way to go in the race.
As we saw it with you as you closed up on Mr. Kurt Massive. But boy, again, congratulations. But what I was even wondering, and this is my second question, could that
Yeah.
ballast have really benefited you in the second race in the rain? Maybe it gave you guys a little bit of extra traction. I couldn't tell you.
Well, I have my secrets where I get my traction from, and it all has to do with the tires.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm not saying that the ballast maybe got us really planted on the ground more,
Right.
but I had more traction even with it while we were practicing in the week. I even had more traction than Jaden, and he had a little bit more weight than I did. So I'm not sure if I had the perfect weight for the car or my tire pressures were working, but I did
Right.
have a grip advantage.
All right. Well, you can definitely
Which,
share those time pressures with me
and
later on.
yeah, and it's the same with Dover. Remember Dover race?
Yep.
If you,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
it's yeah.
Well, fair enough.
Like that.
He
I like the
has.
rain. You say I like the rain.
I'm sure he'll be definitely trying for some rain dances. We'll get some feedback from the drivers like Mr. Massive, who we know is not the biggest fan of the Assetto Corsa rain, but nonetheless, will
Yeah.
race whenever he can and wherever he can. But nonetheless, Rohit Robinson, congratulations. P1 in race 1, P3 in race 2. That should put you ahead of Jaden Harrison in the overall championship standings. I believe he said he was 1 point behind you, but I'll double check that because I'd assume it would have been a little bit more, but we will tell.
Let's see. Let's see.
Definitely. But yes, any final thoughts going into the final, well, round 3 next week?
Round 3, Imola, another of my favorite tracks. I think Imola would be top 3 on my rank of favorite tracks. So, yeah, hopefully it rains there again.
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to the rain dances. We'll post any reaction on Instagram, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to see Rohit Robinson doing the rain dance, please leave it in the chat, leave it in on the Instagram comments on our caption, and we will get it done as quickly as possible. With that being said, that does bring a wrap to our stream. Rohit Robinson, congratulations again. And ladies and gentlemen, we will check and update you with the final championship standings as the series progresses. Look out for our social media and any further questions, any concerns. If you'd like to come racing with us, please send us a message. We'd love to have you. Again, we'd love to big up our partners, GT Panama, Nova Racing Store, Ceramicare, and AC Karting. Our Tita Racing is always there to help us out as well, and friends of ours over at AC Friends Community. And we just like to take this opportunity to thank you guys as always for joining us, racing with us, and we will see you again as soon as we can possibly see you. I've been your host, Stephen Stewart. Rohit Robinson, would you like to say good night?
Yes, good night, and let's bring that fan base up.
Yes, sir.
Let's work and support you guys.
Absolutely. So tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to tell their girlfriend that they need to come on board and watch us as we tackle on round 3 next week at the Imola Circuit. And you will see Mr. Robinson in his, well, you've heard him, loved the Brands Hatch. He dominated Brands Hatch, dominated Monza, my apologies. And will he be able to dominate next week? Only time will tell. He will have a little bit more balance on the way as well, finishing first in race 1. So will that even the split a little bit more? Only time will tell. Tune in next week for round 3. I have been your host, and I bid you a very well good evening, Rohit Robinson. Thank you as always for joining. We will speak soon.
Thank you. See you soon.
We are coming up to as
man. So
there is our
outside. Oh yeah.
Ooh, he
Yeah.
tried the switcheroo.
Yeah.
Here is Eastman going side by side with Jaden Harrison. Jaden Harrison took him on the inside, but Eastman says no and closes the door. But here he is now about to lose 2 positions heading into the penultimate corner. Now coming through the final corner, can Moff get past Eastman as well?